the series I'm going to be covering is called Tetsunabe no Jan, also known as Wok Jan. And this is a manga original by Saijo Shinji. And this is their only work. And this manga itself was actually started way back in 1995. Um, so again, this was
Uh,
pretty much a month apart from Cooking Master Boy. I believe Cooking Master Boy was initially
same era.
published in October of 1995, and then this was actually published in November of 95. So it was literally within like a month of each
Yeah.
other. Um, so pretty much, as Toast just mentioned, pretty much the same era. The adaptation that's going on right now is done by Troika Studios. So obviously, you guys all know them by their infamous work, All Know Zero. And more recently, they did Atri, My Dear Moments, which, if you guys know, is originally a
I don't
front
know.
wing visual novel.
I would have
Yeah.
said Idolish 7, but okay.
Yeah, Idolish 7
Okay.
is also one of their famous kind of long running, I guess, franchises that they're helping to work. But yeah, Troika's heading it on, and within it, the project team is headed by Aoki A. So if you guys don't know, Aoki A is pretty much like Troika's. I want to say like core director. He doesn't necessarily direct everything in Troika, but he is like one of the OGs at the studio. He was there for again stuff like I'll Know Zero, I believe, for Idolish, and then stuff like Atri as well. And Director Aoki brings together some of the standard kind of Troika team members, such as Matsumoto Masako as character designer, and like um, what is it, Naito Ken as art director, Akitaka Jin, obviously very prolific sound director, as well as some experienced people from the outside to form this project team. So overall, pretty experienced team, and most of them are pretty used to each other. Um, in terms of the voice acting cast, as you can see, pretty much the entire voice acting cast. This is actually somewhat rare these days, but it's a pretty heavily veteran cast. I don't think there's anybody new here. Like, yeah, there's pretty much nobody new here, with a decent number of A-listers. Out of here, the quote unquote least experienced voice actor is actually Kikunosuke Toya, who is voicing the protagonist, Akiyama-chan. So if you guys don't know who Kikunosuke Toya is, he is the young star who pretty much slammed into the seiyuu scene with his first breakout role being Denji from Chainsaw Man. So
Wow.
Crazy
he's
connections, man.
Wow,
yeah.
Spire, I can't believe our series both have parallel comparisons where our main character is voiced by someone new, then we have a whole cast of veterans behind them. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, he's in this crowd, he is quote unquote the least experienced, which is kind of scary to say it. But yeah, the other members, you have Hasegawa Ikumi, you have Mao, you have Takahiro, you have Suki Tomokazu, stuff like that. Kobayashi Yusuke, Tsuda Kenjiro is narrating. So a lot of heavy A-listers as well. Going over to the opening ending, audio visuals real quickly. The ending actually has not come out yet, although we do know the information. It is so we haven't like seen it yet as of us recording this. It is Naita Akuma by Enumi Mini. So Enemy Mini is a smaller kind of newcomer Japanese YouTuber singer who does like a lot of covers. Again, we haven't released this yet. We might have an update for this when it does release. But the opening is Kaen by so Kaen done with the kanji for like flame and banquet essentially, or flame and feast. And this is sung by Gein wa Jibun ni Aru. So Gein wa Jibun ni Aru is a seven member Japanese boy band. They've gone through a lot of like reshuffling and stuff like that, I think, over the years and renaming. But it is a Japanese boy band. The composition of the opening, I would say, is pretty okay. But I think the vocals could use definitely a little bit of work. Um, but overall, it's not bad. Audio visuals wise, the character design of the line work is pretty similar. The line art, excuse me, is pretty similar and reminiscent of the older series and the manga in general, obviously. So it resembles the manga stuff decently for the most part. The ideas for the animations and the storyboard like setups and the concepts behind the actual cooking scenes are well done, and they have a lot of these like um these like multi-panel pop-ins. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's like, for instance, you'll have, you know how it's like, um, you'll have a screen, you'll have the screen split into like three, right? And then you'll have the first third of like the panel, the one on the left, kind of animating the first part of the cooking scene, like let's say flipping the rice, and then you'll have
Oh
second,
yeah,
the
so it's
middle
like a
panel, only
cut up
like
like montage.
yeah, montage. You'll have a lot of stuff like that, or you'll have like the repeated. You'll have this thing where it's like, um, where you have one scene and then that scene gets like repeated. The screen gets like cut into what a quarter, like into four, and then that scene gets repeated again, like, and then the screen again gets cut into four. So it's like you'll have like 16 mini of the same scenes to kind of emphasize the repetition going all over and over again. So you have a lot of these like different like ways to split up the panel and have like cut-ins and like stuff like that. And I like that sort of storyboard concept. It's a lot more, I want to say, like manga adjacent in terms of like utilization of like different panels and stuff like that in the anime. So I do like that. So I think that's well done. The storyboarding is quite well done, but overall, some of the animation, like specific like cooking, the animations during like the cooking scenes and stuff like that, are definitely um like you can tell that they don't have necessarily the budget of something like a Shokugeki no Soma or like a David production kind of thing, right? Um, so I kind of almost wish that this had gone over to David Productions or like some other kind of like studio instead of necessarily Troika, just so I could kind of potentially watch this series at like a higher quality and potentially the quality that it quote unquote deserves. But I do like it. I do like the storyboarding. I do like how it kind of panned out. The BGM is a lot of in the background of when it's not silent, and it is mostly silent because most of it's just like cooking, kind of setting up, just talking a little bit back and forth. But when it's actually like when they're like confronting each other or like they're building up the tension, there's a lot of blaring. It's a lot of electronic synth sounds, like what you would find in an adaptation of like an old school battle manga or like a fighting game, right? But other than that, again, it's relatively nondescript. But I think in terms of the audio visuals, much like a lot of the other stuff in the series, it's a pretty charming kind of old school style that I do appreciate. Going over the series, essentially, Shokugeki no Soma is, or not Shokugeki no Soma, Tetsunabe no Jan is very similar to a lot of these other kind of series that you might see that have these sorts of like genius cook, prodigy, um, working at a place, maybe making new dishes, whatever, stuff like that.
You know all those Chinese all those Chinese cooking series? It's basically that too. They're all good.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, there's a high-end Chinese restaurant in Ginza, Tokyo. For those of you who don't know, Ginza is like one of like the rich, I don't want to say like gentrified places, but it's like one of like the places where rich people hang out a lot, the very affluent people. And this high-end Chinese restaurant obviously has like the different Chinese dishes, but they also make like ridiculous stuff like entire dragons or swans out of like fruits and veggies and stuff like that. And so dude walks in and people are like, What is this guy all about?" And he asks for a dish of fried rice. And after eating it, he's like, "This is crap. Like, what are you guys doing?" He throws it away and he starts making fried rice himself. And everybody kind of starts gathering around him, being like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" And it's found out that the boy's name is Akiyama-chan, and Akiyama is the grandson of Akiyama Kaichiro. So Akiyama Kaichiro in this universe was sort of he passed away, but he was known as sort of the master, the conqueror of Chinese cuisine back in the day. Um, and his sort of the owners, the proprietors, the family that owns the high-end restaurant that he was making fried rice in, the Gobancho family, is essentially I don't want to say necessarily the rival, but
They are
obviously
basically
they yeah
pretty
they are
much.
they're basically the rivals essentially. So the guy kind of walks in, starts making the rice, and he's like, obviously he wants to be super high quality, but he also considers cooking to be sort of a competitive thing. So he always has to kind of be like one step up. He has to always do something more extra. He always has to do something more, right? And he brings that vision, and
So
yep,
what's the deal with this fried rice, Spire? Why is it so much different than the original, golden fried rice they serve over there? What did he add? What's the
yeah, yeah.
secret ingredient?
Yeah. So he starts adding stuff
MSG.
like yeah,
Close.
MSG, but he starts doing stuff like adding tofu or trying to um dealing with the fact that he's adding more like watery ingredients right
Well,
to
yeah, Spire,
a
you can't
dish that
add tofu. You can't add tofu to fried rice. Tofu is mostly water. It's gonna. How
yeah, yeah,
can you
yeah,
make
and it's gonna
fried rice
ruin
when it's too
the
watery?
kind of yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like stuff like that. And then along the way, he does that. He makes stuff like yuringi and so on as well. But essentially, he um, the other people are not necessarily like inspired by him, but it's like they accept his like cooking skills, right? And he starts working at the restaurant alongside again the Gobancha people, alongside um the sort of the heir, I want to say, to the Gobancha family, Kiriko Gobancho or Gobancho Kiriko, uh, who is pretty much one of the best cooks in Gobancho, and again her sort of the heir to the Gabancho kind of family there. So she is
What do you
pretty much the
mean,
same
Spire?
as
They
Jin.
don't get along at all. You have to
Yeah, yeah,
explain our
yeah,
protagonist's personality.
yeah. Yeah, she's it's essentially the same as the easiest way to explain it
He's no
for
Shokugeki no Soma, Spire. When was this made? 1996, right? He's from that era. He's from that
yeah,
era
yeah,
of hot-blooded shonen protagonists. He's not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
cool. Yeah,
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 no,
whatever.
I'll
Yeah.
definitely
Oh,
get to that later,
yeah, yeah.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Um, but essentially, like the female relationship, from like the female side, in terms of like the initial setup, is similar to that of like Shokugeki no Soma. That's like the easiest way to explain it for the MZ generation out there. um, but that summary aside, my impressions on it, yeah, and then afterwards, like all about pretty much must be about cooking, and I'll get into a little bit more of the details later when I'm giving my impressions. So my impressions is that this is obviously very much a product and relic of its time, although I will say it's not an unwelcome one, right? It's not one that's like out of place necessarily, or like something that I'd be like, oh, well, it's just, they just remade it and it's like they just want to sell some stuff and then go home. Um, it's not necessarily relying just on nostalgia. It's like actually has value on its own. Obviously, again, because it is a product of what Toast just mentioned with regards to sort of the hot-blooded shonen focused, a lot of that bias uh, in the 90s. It's filled with a lot of these like extreme situations. These situations almost utilizing the escapism, I want to say, that was permeating the time. The escapism instead of like the realism that we see in a lot of series these days with stuff like I want to say probably the most infamous one we know in like media is like DC stuff, right? DC superheroes. But instead of that, sort of utilizing the escapism that was permeating literature at that time and using it in a cooking anime and focus on doing that sort of extreme, ruthless, competitive, like extra kind of thing. Obviously, again, very similar in nature to Cooking Master Boy, and because they started around in pretty much the same time. I think this is a very it's also important to mention, I would say, this is a very different take on this sort of series for an audience looking for a slightly different tone compared to even say something like Shokugeki no Soma.
I
I
will
would
say
say,
that
yeah,
if Cookie Master Boy is super lighthearted and whimsical with all that, this series is the complete opposite of that in terms of
yeah,
tone.
for sure. It's like, how do I say this? It's like It's sort of like what you would sort of see in Shokugeki no Soma because Cooking Master Boy is a little bit more
Uh,
like, "Hey, what are you doing? Oh, this dish was made," kind of thing, right? It's like this dish kind of landed here
I
almost.
see where you're going. I see
Um,
where you're inspired. It's like if Shokugeki no Soma has foodgasms, this one has food.
yeah, it's grinding it, but it's like the difference between the line between Shokugeki no Soma and like Tetsunabe no Jen, and you can kind of tell that this is like a difference in the ages, is that Shokugeki no Soma has like outside of some like the cooking scenes, right? It has a much softer tone and it focuses a lot more on the outside on the various kind of like cast and character development and potential rom-com interactions and stuff like that. Um, when it doesn't focus on the food, right? And that's again a product of Shokugeki no Soma's time, where because in that sort of l- l- early to late 2000s, going into I want to say around 2014, right? That sort of era in which Shokugeki no Soma was born in. Um, that was the rage, right? Putting rom com into every here and there, having a lot more things about like the character development and like the cast, networking and expedition and all that sort of stuff was sort of the time, was sort of the zeitgeist at that in that context. But with Tetsunabe no Jan, right? All the like most of obviously most of it's about the cooking, like very heavily on the actual food over the character expositions, and the character expositions themselves are almost simply like the wheels or like the grease on which the series managed to get from one cooking scene to another in Tetsunabe no Jan. It's not like, oh, the characters are doing all this thing and then the cast is like having this relationship and doing blah, blah. It's like not really, it's almost not really the focus. Although obviously they need a minimum amount of it to be like, hey, there are characters in this anime, right? But with Tetsunabe no Jan, very much the focus is like one cooking scene one. Okay, all right, this cooking scene one is done. Let's do a little bit of the story so we can get to cooking scene two. So I think that's a very heavy difference. Although obviously there are like the competitive aspects of Tetsunabe no Jan versus Shokugeki no Soma are quite similar, right? But the in betweens are quite different, and again, obviously they reflect the different eras that they were born in my opinion. Do you kind of agree, Toast?
Yeah, I'll say this. If Shokugeki no Soma is foodgasm, I would say this series
Mm.
is food violence because the way Jan
Yeah, yeah,
cook
yeah, yeah.
is pretty violent.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
But like, and again,
in
it's
a
like
way to put it.
the animation sequences and the paneling also kind of add to that, where it's always like, oh, I'm gonna fucking like, stir fry this so hard. It's like a lot of that is like that sort of
Yeah,
extreme
there's a lot of
nature.
like I mentioned before, there's a lot of mannerisms in this show that's not typical of current modern modern
Woke
views.
nonsense.
Yeah,
If you want to put
It's
it
a
that way.
little bit more similar to something like something you see in like a Prince of Tennis or like a Baki almost, in like a fighting like
Very
extreme kind of like we're gonna
closer
do
to Baki
something
than Prince of
super
Tennis.
extreme.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um,
That's a good point. Is this the Baki of cooking, or is this the
it's tried to do like fighting series, but with like cooking essentially is sort of
yeah?
how that it goes.
I would
Yeah.
say. Do you guys know the series? What is it? You guys know Otokojuku, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would say it's in the same vein as those series.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is mm, is this true? Is this true battle cooking manga spire, and not whimsical children's children's
I think
shonen
it's pretty close to
cooking?
it for sure. It's like it's not just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
wow food
yeah,
porn. It's
yeah.
not
I
like
would
that.
say
It's like it actually. Yeah.
if Cooking Master Boy and Fighting Foodons are like shonen battle mangas, this is a lot
It's like
more.
food presentation.
Oh,
It's like yeah, Cooking Master Boy is like a food presentation, and like America's Test Kitchen kind of video, right?
hmm.
But like
So this is the
Tetsunabe
Hell's
no Jan is a
Kitchen.
little bit yeah, Hell's Kitchen is what I was thinking.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like the vibes are definitely a little bit different. But yeah, thanks Toast for the cut in. But one thing I will say that and this is not like a like major criticism or even like a criticism of like a major extent or anything like that. Um, the extreme and like almost surreal food situations aside, which are charming, funny and stuff like that, the depictions of Japanese food and cuisine in the series, you can tell, have been filtered kind of through the Japanese eye and the Japanese like cultural knowledge of cuisine, which was then if you kind of know like food history, it's already sort of filtered through Western influences at that point in time as well, right? The easiest example is sort of like having the green peas in the fried rice, as well as the Japanese style like fried rice that you see in a lot of these like Instagrammable restaurants today in Japan, right? For instance, like in the first example, like green peas aren't like illegal necessarily in fried rice, but usually in like China, especially in like the poor areas, right? You focus on you don't really have like green peas lying around always for fried rice. It's more just like what you find in the backyard or like in the
Spire,
in back the back mountains, right? So it's like
Spire,
a lot of
don't you know Yangzhou fried rice? Green peas are a necessity, or else it's not real fried rice.
eh,
It's in the
well,
manual, Spire. I watched that video.
yeah, yeah, but I think most of the time it's like unless you're like near the coastline, unless you're like near the south where it's like a lot more like diverse, usually it's like finding leaves, scallions, mushrooms, like whatever the hell you can kind of just chuck in the fried rice, and that's like a very standard like Chinese style. And then on top of that, you have a lot of the you have classic like Japanese people really like the way having a more liquid egg layer over the rice, right? To create that like even yellow layer. But a lot of Chinese fried rice you'll see is not actually like that. A lot of Chinese fried rice is often you let the egg cook a decent amount and then you kind of mix the chunks into the rice, right? If you just
Yeah,
have the liquid egg onto
it's
the
between
rice,
egg
yeah,
ribbons and what is it called? Versus just cooking it in it. Egg
yeah,
shreds or whatever. What do you call it?
yeah, so it's like you'll have in Chinese fried rice, you'll have a lot of like egg chunks, like small like chunks and stuff like that in it. But then in like sort of Japanese restaurants, you'll have like an egg colored rice, right? It's almost like the liquid egg is wrapped around the rice. But Chinese people sometimes call that sort of like Japanese like egg colored rice. They'll call it jimbayan or gold over silver. Um, which is sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't, but it is definitely like the depictions, a lot of these in the in Tetsunabe Jan is definitely like a Japanese culturally influenced version of Chinese cuisine, which is like fine, but it's like that's just how it is. um Overall though, I do think that it was a quite a fun romp and definitely a refreshing change of pace, although obviously it's a blast from the past, right? But it is still a refreshing pace of change of pace that we get from this series. It's very like one note in the best of ways, right? It's like boom, we have this cooking scene and it's cooking. We're being intense. We're doing this. We're going from this to a second cooking scene that's intense, and we're talking about the food. Boom, 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 boom. Again, I almost wish that this was done by David Productions or some, studio that could really give it a little bit more gloss on it. Sure,
Spire.
could
I don't think David. Do you think they would want some of this controversy, Spire?
the
Cause
controversy. I
cause I will say that uh, you, you don't. Have you read the manga, Spire?
I have not, unfortunately.
It
I do want
gets.
to read
I
it
will
now.
say that it gets pretty damn violent in here. So I don't think. Do you think David? I don't think David Production wants this smoke.
I mean, they've
I mean,
done like decent.
there's. I will say there's a reason why I call this cooking violence because there's a lot of unsavory things that happen in this manga, and
Yeah, I mean, but
it's
they've done
not.
stuff like Undead Unluck and the other stuff too, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not that
they're not
bad.
like not used
I
to.
don't know.
uh,
I mean, there's a reason why I call this food violence. Like,
yeah.
Does someone get like boiling oil poured on their face? Like, what are you
uh,
talking about?
I mean, damn, damn near. How dare you?
What?
Yeah, it's well, you're pretty much on the money near. There's a lot of violent stuff. This, like I said, this
Uh,
is cooking violence.
it's like
You
those
know, a
old
real.
you remember those old like safety commercials? I don't know if you guys had them actually, but But in Canada here, there were these old commercials that would play on TV of like workplace accidents. Um,
Yeah.
and there was one where it was like a bunch of pipes falling on a dude, in a forklift, and then there was another where like this girl like slips in a kitchen, as she's carrying like a pot of boiling oil, and it like shows the whole thing, and it's just like it's just like what the fuck.
Or like it's
Um,
like the Indiana Jones movies or stuff like that, where it's like
yeah,
it's
and it's just
showing
like,
like
damn, okay.
the guy melting.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I mean,
But
yeah,
yeah.
pretty much. Like I said, it's a lot. There's a lot of violence in the series, not just with like
Mhm.
the cooking. Well, it's because of the way they cook. Like, it might be unsavory to some people, but also like in the competitions themselves. I mean, I don't know. Let's just say that Jan was forced under pretty guerrilla cooking tactics, I will say.
damn.
Like if you don't,
Vietnamese cooking tactics.
I guess
Yeah.
it's like like I said, violence cooking. I will say that whatever. You know those oh, whatever. Yeah, violence cooking. I'm not gonna say what happens in this one because it's a pretty good, even though, yeah, some stuff happens.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a overall, again, pretty fun romp. I don't really have much to like in terms of like the source material and like what it's kind of depicting and like the story and stuff like that and the flow of it. I don't really have much to say in terms like I don't really have like major criticisms or anything like that of it. Again, I do wish
I
that.
have a criticism, Spire. You reviewed this too
But,
early. We didn't get any crazy cooking yet. How dare you?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I apologize for that, but yeah, I think this is definitely a kind of refreshing. If you guys still like cooking series, which a lot of people do, but want a kind of more focused kind of series, right, on the cooking instead of just like, wow, somebody digging into an omelet with a fork or whatever it is, right? I think this is definitely a good change of pace to check out. Um, So again, I would say definitely at least chuck this one on the backlog, see where it goes. I think in terms of ratings, I'll put this at a solid 7.5 out of 10, which is I think pretty decent for me. Again, I think if it was like a little bit, maybe if potentially
Let
it
me
was a different studio, it would go into eights and above. But I think it was I think Turka did an okay job, but I think there could have been studios that could maybe have done better for sure. So,
let me. I mean,
uh,
bring up a cool panel on this series once I find Inspire. So it's to see.
mm,
Also, this is why I call this series food violence. Let me go find it. But yeah,
yeah,
my
yeah,
opinion. This is also a must watch for this season. I do. I'm calling out Spire that he reviewed this series too early. That we haven't got to the crazy wacky stuff. But yeah, this is definitely on my must watch.
okay. But yeah, that was pretty much my series. Again, if you guys want to watch a pretty good change of pace, refreshing cooking series with quite a lot of history, please do check this out.